It is Friday, September 15th. Let's talk PlayStation. Alright, so this is going to be like the Naughty Dog themed Let's Talk PlayStation. A lot of stuff going on there, but we're going to cover up some other news stories first, like firmware, and usually it's like, oh, okay, firmware 4.74, it's available now for PS4, and it improves system performance, and then we just kind of move on, right? No! It doesn't just improve system performance. In fact, if you're currently in the 5.0 beta for PS4, and you were to download this update, so basically going from beta 5.0 to official 4.74, actually a bad thing. Sony's issued a statement saying definitely don't do this if you're in that position, if you are in the beta. Some people automatically updated if they have their PS4 set up so that means some people that were in the 5.0 beta went into this firmware, automatically. More or less, this kind of creates an unstable sort of feature for your PS4. Nothing totally dramatic, I guess. I mean, the big thing is that some games might not start properly, in which case you might have to delete them and reinstall them or re-download them. Other sort of small issues are notifications might get deleted. Things in your library that you previously deleted might reappear again. The order of the content on the dynamic menu might be rearranged or reset somehow. So nothing totally dramatic and breaking of the system per se, but Sony's recommending you don't do this if you're in the 5.0 beta. If you're not, if you're just on the regular firmware currently, you can update to 4.74 just fine, and you will get those wonderful benefits of system improvement, which you likely will never actually see. Moving on to a new PS4 bundle that Sony loves to do whenever they have any sort of major game release on their platform and that they have some sort of marketing deal with. This is for Call of Duty World War II. The game's going to be shipping November 3rd, but you can also get this special slim PlayStation 4, which I don't think it's all that special. I mean, yes, it looks camouflage, but that's like, now that's it. Usually you can think back to a number of other previous Call of Duty systems, and usually they were Xboxes, because back in the day it was Xbox 360, and Microsoft that had that partnership in the day, but those 360s look pretty cool. This is literally just a camouflage PlayStation 4. Could not be more basic in terms of what it looks like. The PlayStation logo is gone on the system, so it's literally just trying to vanish in your entertainment unit. And the DualShock 4 isn't even camouflage as well. It's just sort of an olive green. If this is your kind of thing, cool. I think this is the most boring special PS4 I've ever seen in my life. Why? It's just so bland. Like, it's Call of Duty. Do something cool with it. Make it look old and rugged. It puts some World War II type, shit on it. You know what I'm saying? Like, do something with it. This just looks very plain Jane to me. But anyway, it's going to be available day and date with the game. It's going to be $300 in the US. It is coming to Europe, by the way. So if you are interested in this thing, be on the lookout for that. Just a PS4 Slim, by the way. Some people are now wondering, that's interesting, because now that we have two models of the PlayStation 4, you'll find yourself in situations where you might be in the market for a new PlayStation, but you might want a Pro over, a Slim. Some games are going to be shipping with special Slims, and some, like, for example, Destiny 2, gets that special Glacier White PS4 Pro. You would have to imagine that, well, I was going to say bigger games are going to get, like, a Pro treatment, but World War II's, the Call of Duty games, that's big, right? Although a lot of people are going to be buying Call of Duty. It's I don't know. I guess it's going to be give and take in terms of what Sony wants to do. But yeah, so if you want a Pro, then and you want a camouflage PlayStation 4, then you're kind of out of luck there. All right, this is probably the most non-Sony but kind of Sony news we've ever had. I just thought this was worth mentioning. If you're at all on Twitter, then you must have seen this account at some point over the years. It's the @Hirai CEO Twitter account. This isn't really Hirai, it's a parody account. There's some really funny tweets that come out of this Twitter account. Basically, this guy that runs the account tweeted earlier this week that he's going to more or less shut the account down within 2018, probably after E3 2018. Basically saying he doesn't follow game news anymore, and because he won't be able to follow game news as closely anymore, his jokes and funny quips aren't going to be like relevant, and he's not going to know what to say, basically. But this Twitter account's hilarious. It's certainly worth following. Well, it was worth following, but he's going to be ending it for coming relatively soon. Just an FYI, this guy was really funny. He amassed a lot of followers, which kind of tells you the good nature of the Twitter account. Even Sony acknowledged it one or two times. It was on their E3 stage at one point, or was it during CES? I don't remember, but they have shown tweets on stage during Sony's press conferences. Oh well, sad times are upon us. All good things must come to an end at some point. Now let's get into the Naughty Dog stuff. Now, the big kind of thing that came out recently was Naughty Dog's Bruce Straley is leaving Naughty Dog after 18 years with the company. Bruce Straley, of course, and Neil Druckmann, kind of the two big heads at Naughty Dog currently. Bruce was actually on a very long sabbatical at Naughty Dog for almost a year, and he announced that he wasn't going to be directing The Last of Us Part 2, and now he's just straight up not coming back to the company whatsoever. And he posted on the Naughty Dog website a blog post kind of discussing why and whatnot, and it's one of your basic sort of PR write-ups where he's not really divulging details as to why or what, just saying that the team was great and his time at Naughty Dog was fantastic, playing up his colleagues and things like that. A very nice message, certainly, but we're not really getting any sort of detail as to why exactly he's leaving or exactly where he's going to. Some people are surmising that he's just been in that place where he finally got burned out, and especially an undertaking like Uncharted 4 really kind of pushed it for him there. And I can understand that. You know, this happens for a lot of people that have been in games for a very substantial amount of time, and especially people that have those higher position roles. Another one that comes to mind for me is Ken Levine, where he wanted to leave, you know, after doing BioShock, and that was a big project. And one of his biggest complaints when doing BioShock was that it was just such a big project, and you work with so many people, and you don't know everybody's name, and there's just all this different direction that you have to guide for people, and it's I have to imagine it's a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress. I mean, stress levels are already very high when making multi-million-dollar video games. We're always talking about how difficult they are to make, and deadlines, and having to maybe go back to the publisher and say, oh no, we need more time, and you have to delay the game. Like, it's a big mess. People don't... It's so easy to look at it from the outside and not understand how ridiculous it is to make a video game and get it into your house for you to play. So I'm guessing Bruce is at that point in his life where he's wants to, and that's why he was on that year sabbatical, right? To give himself some time to kind of relax. I'm more than certain the guy is developing gray hairs a lot more quickly than your average person. But it will be interesting to see what Bruce does after. I'll follow closely to follow up with you guys what he ends up doing. If it will stay in the games industry or if he'll leave the games industry, and if he does stay in the games industry, maybe it'll be a smaller undertaking, or maybe it may even be a larger undertaking. That would be surprising for sure. Actually, if we dial back to the Ken Levine situation, he is still in games, but his, you know, what he's working on now is a much smaller title, and I forget what it's called. They actually just recently showed a trailer for that game that Ken's working on, but it's a much smaller project, and that's what he was talking about. It's just such a big team, it really gets to you. Either way, Bruce, thank you so much. I'm talking to you personally. You're not watching this at all, for sure. But thank you for all your time at Naughty Dog and making really great, awesome content for us to play. I truly appreciate it, and I know a lot of us here that are watching also probably do. On to our final news story. We actually have a little bit of insight on the controversy during Uncharted 4's development. If you remember back then during Uncharted 4, a few things kind of ended up happening. It was a little bit of a shakedown, right? Because Amy Hennig, who was the writer for the series, she had left at the time. She wasn't commenting about what happened. Naughty Dog wasn't really commenting about what happened. We do know that Uncharted 4 took a sort of drastic change in the story, and we didn't know what happened there. At one point, the actor Todd Stashwick was voicing the antagonist, and then he abruptly left the project, and this was after a trailer was already made with his voice in it. So that was like a big thing back in the day. We were really sort of wondering what happened there. Now we know. Oh, so, well, we don't know exactly, by the way. This is still all mostly conjecture, but I would have to guess that a few of these things, or one or two, or all these things probably played a major role in what happened. Anyway, Jason Schreier, he's a writer for Kotaku. He just recently released a book called Blood, Sweat, and Pixels. Kind of goes into what what I just said. It details how difficult it is for games to make and sort of the trials and tribulations of what goes on at developers and stuff like that. It's a really cool book. I just started reading it, not that far into it, but anyway, there is some excerpts in there from, you know, and some coverage on Uncharted 4. And so just a few things that I can pull from it to tell you guys right now, because this did make a few headlines anyway on the internet, so that's how I know about it already. I didn't get to that point. But in terms of Uncharted 4's development, here's a few things that basically went down. For one thing, Amy Hennig and everybody at Naughty Dog signed a non-disparagement agreement, which means that Amy can't say anything negative to the press, Naughty Dog can't say anything negative to the press, so that immediately will tell you that whatever did transpire probably has the possibility of them having some ill feelings towards one another. That would, if they had to do something like that in the first place, that tells you that in one way or another, bad words could be said about the other, right? Even though they still were pretty good in talking to the press about how, you know, it was more of a mutual thing than anything else. But what ended up happening, and this is the one thing we kind of saw coming, is that the story had a bit of a direction change, which is that a lot of people initially thought Sam was going... this is going to Uncharted 4's story. Slight spoiler alert, but not really. I'm not going to spoil anything major. But we know that in the basic premise of Uncharted 4 is that Drake has a brother. His name's Sam. And he's introduced later in the game because at one point Nate thought that he was dead. That's how the game initially introduces him, because Sam isn't dead. I guess Amy's vision of that story was that Sam was going to be bitter towards Drake, and he was actually going to be an antagonist. And we kind of picked up on that. And then it sort of turned into what it is now, whereas Sam is actually nice and comfortable with you the whole way through once you guys finally come back together. Now, another portion of the book also details how Amy actually didn't have a clear voice and was bad at making decisions, and it ultimately left Uncharted 4 in sort of a rocky development cycle initially, but some others close to the project said that was mostly due to the fact that most of the team wasn't working on Uncharted 4 at that point, which means that you don't have a whole lot of people or resources to really get the project moving. And then there's the other side of things where it was like, okay, Neil Druckmann and Bruce Straley and Amy Hennig, like Bruce and Neil and Amy, they weren't meeting eye to eye on a number of things. And that right there would signal not very good things. So that's really all the details we have. So nothing concrete. But when you add them all up, I'm guessing it was like a little bit of all those things. I wouldn't pin it on one thing in particular, but we do know that the story did take a drastic turn. They did have sign an agreement not to tell the public what really went down, because one could probably say something mean to the other, and so on and so forth. It could be that situation. But that does just give you some slight insight into what happened back then, and echoing the statements I've mentioned many times in this episode already, games are actually very hard to make. If you still didn't get that, please get that. And I don't even make them. I just talk about them. I'm one of those assholes that just likes talking about games on the internet. I just like to be a bit more sympathetic because I know that shit ain't easy. Anyway, those are some of the news stories I want to talk about with you guys this week. So, I wanted to do a Twitter poll, but then I thought, you know what? I got a surprise for you. So I got a Let's Play picked out. It will go live hopefully Monday. If it doesn't go live Monday, probably Tuesday or Wednesday, but I'm hoping Monday. But the game is picked already. And the funny thing is, if I were to put this game in a poll, I'm fairly confident it would have won anyway, but yeah, so we'll just expect that very soon. Also, I'm still figuring out what I'm waiting for right now is a day off, just in the middle of the day where I have no other obligations, and then I can just do that Jack and Daxter live stream from start to finish. And when that happens, I will let you know. Anyway, that concludes this week's episode of Let's Talk PlayStation. I'm Rabbit. Thank you all so much for talking with me, and I will see you guys next Friday.